All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. First off, I want to say welcome to everyone. Thank you for coming to our workshop, Script Your Own Superhero. This is a creative workshop hosted by Morpheyes Studio. First off, I want to introduce myself. My name is Liam Coleman, and I go by LJ. I identify as gender queer, and I use they, them, theirs pronouns. I am the writer, director, creative producer for Morpheyes, and I also have been involved in quite a bit of theater, and I have many different hats and many different roles. I graduated from RIT in 2019, and I've been working here with this amazing group of deaf individuals. I got my degree in visual arts and deaf cultural studies, among quite a few other things. I am originally from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I'm super excited to get started. Hi, everyone. I'm also really excited to be a part of this presentation. My name is Melvana Romborger, and I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am an illustrator. That means that I use my skills to create different pictures, different arts. I really enjoy drawing animals and people. I'm originally from Washington State, and I have enjoyed majoring in illustration. I am a third-year student here at RIT. And hopefully I will get my bachelor's of fine arts pretty soon. All right, hand it over.
Hi, everybody. My name is Moises Tobias. I use he, him, his pronouns. Right now, I'm a filmmaker, editor, and designer. And I'm originally from California, Los Angeles area. Here at RIT, I'm majoring in new media design. And if you're not sure what that major is, I work on 3D graphics and imaging animation. And I'm going to show you a big part of one of my projects today. It's a short video that I'll show you really soon. It's really cool. And if someone can play that video, that'd be great. Isn't that cool? I just love that. I think it's so interesting. So now I'd like to do some introductions about Morpheyes Studio and what we do here. We are a deaf-led creative production studio here on NTID RIT's campus. We provide innovative, artistic, creative solutions and movies in a deaf creative-led team. And we've got a brief video to show you what some of our work looks like. Real short video that we think you'll like.
It's really cool to see how we built the set, how we set up our studio. Also, we have been working on quite a few different projects over the past few years. We have our studio team that I would like to talk about. You can see on the slide here, we have a triangle that shows a bunch of different roles that we have. We don't actually have 12 people on our team. Currently, we have about 6 people. We are growing. There has been some changes of who's been involved. First off, we have the producer. The producer is essentially responsible for making sure that things are going well, setting up locations, making sure that all of those dots are crossed and T's are crossed as well. Also, as a producer, we have a director. They are in charge of some filmography, making sure that things are going pretty well. Moises mentioned that he is the director of photography, that's the DP, which means that he is responsible for the camera work, setting up the different angles, thinking about how the actors should be placed within the scene and in the frame. There are a lot of different needs that go into making a project, such as editing, and that requires other people to create their skills as well. Sometimes we have special effects, we do visual effects as well, all different roles that people play. We use Firespace. There's a whole bunch of different programs and different things that we use to make a project happen. And this is how we are able to build our project using these 3D artistic techniques. Again, you see all of these different roles, and there's so many things that create our finished project. If you look over on the right side of the screen, you can see our project pipeline, and that's something that we're going to be talking about our project, how it starts, how it goes from A to Z. First off, we start with our pitch idea. That's where we start developing our script. The script could be in sign language, it might be in written English, just depending on what you feel comfortable using. Once the script is set, you need to start thinking about that story. For example, I am not very talented as an artist, which is why we got Melvana, because she is able to create storyboards. She starts thinking about what the angle should look like. Where are people going to be placed in the frame? And then that is starting to work on that storyboard. Once we do that, we take quite a bit of time to get everything prepared for production and just to make sure that everything is set, and it's a super fun process. Once we start moving on from there, we think about what our story is going to look like. RIT has a lot of different amazing programs that can be catered to what you like to do and can fit the skills and the interests that you have. For example, they have an animation program, a film program. There are some overlap, but it depends on what skills you have, what different styles you like to do. Maybe some people like to do cartoons, create short films, work on TV. All of that can be incorporated with animation. This also incorporates lighting and different features that would be involved in film. There's also graphic design where you might work to create logos, posters, as well as promoting the different projects that you're doing. You might want to work with companies in the future for advertising. That might be a good fit for you. We also have new media design. Maybe you're interested in developing screen projects, or you might want to work with different audiences to figure out how you can share those stories, how you can be able to show the skills that you have. We also have video game design. You might want to work in character development, designing different video games, designing the background of video games. All of these things can be incorporated in video game design. And these aren't all of the different majors that they have at RIT. They have lots more as well. And illustration can be incorporated into these different majors. Maybe you like to draw. That's one option for you. Maybe you like to incorporate the emotion within your characters. Also, in illustration, it's really important that you're able to express these different ideas and tell your story through that artistic process. Morpheyes Studio created a comic book, and you can see how this process started and what the different steps were that we took to create that comic book. First, like Liam mentioned, we start off with a script to create kind of a blueprint of what would happen. Then we create this next step, which is a basic line drawing. And then eventually you'll start adding black ink to fill in those gaps, to create your own style and to completely fill in your design. Eventually you'll add color, you'll add different layers to create your picture. Sometimes you might want to add special effects, like maybe there's a bomb going off or something's happening, there's a bullet, you want to make sure you're incorporating that. This takes quite a while to go from A to Z, from the start of a project to a finished project. See how long it takes to get from point A to point B, but it's definitely worth it in the end. And you can see what happened at the beginning and then be proud of yourself. Now, talking about the different programs, the degree programs that they have at RIT, you might want to start thinking about the careers that you're interested in. These different majors can give you a wide variety of options for jobs in your future. You might be interested in cinematography, and that might be a word that you're not necessarily familiar with. That could be the person who operates the camera, for example. They're in charge of all of the electrical and technical aspects of running a camera. Also, a character artist, you might not be familiar with what that job is. For example, if you have a cartoon television show, somebody has to be responsible for creating all of the different characters, which means that they're in charge of designing the color, the style of the characters. Sometimes that's one person, sometimes it might be an entire team, but you need to incorporate all of these different ideas because once you have that TV show going, that character needs to be 3D, which means that you need to think about the front and the back and the background, all of the different aspects of that. Often you'll have a team that will take a 2D drawing and turn it into that TV show or that finished project that you're going for. And again, this usually isn't done by one person. It's really important to work with a team to get that final project done. There's all of these different little aspects and small things that go into creating one large project. So for example, here's a clip from a short film that I made during the pandemic. I actually shot this alone. I directed it alone. I created the script alone, as well as did all of the editing. It took a while to get even the short film done, but I needed to make sure that I followed that process that I was talking about earlier, starting with the script, figuring out what the camera was going to do, creating that conversation with these 3 different characters. I thought very carefully about what the locations were going to be. I needed to make sure that there wasn't any overlap with any of the shots as well. Hey, I like your shoes. Can I borrow them? Do we own 3 pairs of the same pants? That's not important. We need to decide, are we going to use our voices or not?
So now I'd like to talk about skills and visual storytelling. Really, one of the most important things is these 2 categories. You've got creative skills, and then you've got drawing skills. Your creative skills are going to be writing the story, creating the drama, setting the scene. You're going to illustrate your characters, starting with pencil and then ink, creating them in 2D and then moving them to 3D, maybe adding some additional details and utilizing things like Adobe or Autodesk for your software. The next category is your people skills, right? That's where you need to be able to network and work with a number of different people. You need to exchange ideas with people, and you need to remember the things that each member of the team tells you so that you can incorporate it into your work. You need to be able to communicate with a lot of different folks and work within a team. That requires being transparent and open in your communication about every aspect of the project. Teamwork means that you might have a large project, but each person is assigned a specific role and task, and in the end, they all have to come together seamlessly to create the project to its completion. Right now, the project I'm working on is a 3D project, so it means I've got to do a little bit of investigative work, figure out what it is I'm going to create, agree with other members of the team, and then post the work so it becomes live. Here's a quick example of one of my movies. Pretty cool, huh?
It's really cool to see how Moises used that eye to share his story. Now, I want to talk about skills in visual storytelling. If you are a storyteller, first you might have an idea in your head, and then you need to think of how you're going to express that idea. How are you going to use your creativity and your thoughts and all of your ideas to create that story? You might want to do that by drawing or writing on a piece of paper. And it's really cool to be able to see how you can develop your own skills to be able to grow that creative muscle. This isn't something that happens overnight. It's something that does take a lot of practice to get those ideas expressed to other people. Once you have that idea, you might want to start journaling every day. Here's an example of what I use. You can see it's pretty small, but it works for me. And the reason why I have this small book is because it's easy to carry around. If I'm outside, I see something really cool, then I have the opportunity to just take out my journal and draw it. Maybe later I'll go back to that idea and then I can expand on it and decide if I want to add anything or create something from it. This is something that's been really helpful for me, and I'm able to use this skill set. Also, I like watching YouTube, I like looking on Instagram, and I like to get different creative ideas from there. For example, you might not have all of the ideas right away, but you might find something interesting, a style that works for you, something that inspires you. Other people's work is a great step to be able to develop your own skills. Maybe there's something that you see that's really cool. You keep that in the back of your mind, and then you're able to do something with that later. Eventually, you'll be able to develop your own style. You might want to go to the library. You can get ideas from there, read books, and then you might be able to create different ideas from there. You can look at Pinterest is another great way that you can find different ideas. Once you do that, you might need some inspiration. So this will give you the opportunity to find different sources of information, and you'll have this all in one space. If you are able to do this, you might be able to develop your talent, develop your expression skills, and then you'll be able to, again, create your own style. This team has a lot of different amazing skills, and now we want to get into the actual superhero part of our presentation. It's really cool to see how many different ideas you're able to express with this sort of process. Now, what do we do? Let's start talking about the script. Just like Melvana said, it's really cool to see all of the different members of the team, people who are able to design characters. And now we're going to talk about designing superheroes. Hopefully, so far you're inspired to start developing your own superhero. First off, we're going to talk about the script. It's really important to start thinking about your story. If you have a character, a standalone character, it's not super easy to connect with them. For example, you want to make your audience be able to have some sort of a way to connect with that particular character. Once that connection is made, it's much easier to connect with your audience. The best way to do that is to start thinking about the different aspects of your story. And this can be presented in different ways. You can talk about signs, you can talk about identity, and there are different ways that you are able to create meaning in something. You want to create meaning within your audience, and then they'll be able to connect with your character. First off, when you're developing your own story, you'll be able to start developing your own characters. With your story, you think about all of the different things that are going to happen. And that can be kind of hard work, but you can start out maybe with a creative idea. And in this case, we're going to be using Mad Libs, where you are going to be thinking about different words, and then you'll be able to create your story from there.
Okay, so now it's time to get busy. So you've got your materials. Hopefully you have your color markers like these. And it's really important that you have your markers out and ready to use. The next thing you'll need is paper. And this is the sheet that you should have received. That's the list and the story. So you essentially have two options. You can create an animal superhero or a human superhero. And you've got one side of the paper to draw on. One is for animal and the other is for human. And you can see it's really light, but you can see like an outline of the shape. So that'll give you an idea of where to start. So on this first side of the paper, you're going to put down the words as you see, where you see you can fill in the blank. So this is the page you'll start on. Now don't read the story on the back. Don't flip it over yet. What you need to do to begin is just fill in the blanks on this sheet in each of the lines where there is a place for you to put a word. And then once you fill out all of the words as listed, then you flip it over and you transfer words from your list into the story, into the appropriate category.
Before you get started, I want to make sure that everybody understands the directions. So hold on one second. Now, you might see in a sentence that there's numbers associated with some of the words that you're giving. You might see superhero 1, superpower 2. So you want to make sure that you're keeping things consistent. So for example, one of your powers might be invisibility, one might be the ability to fly, and one might be super strength. And those are going to be your 3 superpowers. But if you notice that some of the lines will say object 1, and then later it'll say object 1 again. That means that you want to use the same word in both of those spots. So for example, if you put the dog park down as one of your objects, then every time that comes up, you need to be able to use that same word in the same way. And that will help your story be consistent because you'll be using the same terms in the right parts of your story. After you start working on your script, this is when we're going to start with the design. Before we start drawing, again, I know everyone's really excited. We want to make sure that everyone knows what they're doing. First, you need to think about what ideas you have, what clothes they're going to wear, what design you're going to do. Think about those details. Also think about the different materials that you have. Once you have everything ready in your head, that's when you're going to start drawing. I really recommend starting with pencil because once you're using pencil, you're able to erase and fix any mistakes. And then later, once you have your design all done, you can fill it in with marker and black ink. Also, if you're a new drawer, don't be anxious. Don't worry about it. It's completely okay. It's normal to be a little bit anxious about what you're going to draw. So don't be afraid to mess up. It's really okay. That's completely normal. Everybody screws up sometimes, and that's how you learn. If you accidentally add a line or you color outside of the lines, maybe you can use that to change your drawing up a little bit. This is the opportunity for you to be creative and have fun. Don't worry about it. Again, it's all about the process. There's nothing you can really screw up. Maybe it'll end up being something really cool later. And then this is just a chance for you to share your own ideas about your own superheroes. And again, I want to make sure everybody remembers it's really important to start with pencil. If you start with ink, you make a mistake, you're not able to erase it and you can't go back, which is why I always start with pencil and you should too. And again, don't worry about your drawing being perfect. Right now, we're just trying to get you to practice. This will help you develop your skills and help you create a strong foundation in art. And the goal is to have fun. Another reminder is for this activity, make sure you're following all of the instructions that you have. So think about what your superhero would look like. So think about all of the different aspects you want to incorporate. What do you want to include? This is your own superhero, which means you get to be in charge. Remember, you have 2 different papers. You have the one with the outline on there. If you want to do an animal, you want to do a human, it's completely up to you. Just have fun and be creative.
Okay, so this is going to be a really good competition, and the top 5 winners are going to receive a mini poster of your drawn superhero on a 6-inch mini easel. All submissions are going to be put into a free online book, so you can share your awesome drawings with your friends and other students. It'll be nice to show off the work that you put into creating your superhero. So here's how you give us your submissions. This is really important. You need to tag @Morpheyes Studio, just as you see it on the slide. And then you need to make sure you use the hashtag NTID Superheroes Assemble, just as you see it on the slide. Make sure you follow the capitalization as you see it. NTID, capital S, capital A in Superheroes Assemble. That way, when you post your drawings to social media, everyone will be able to see them. It'll be great to share all the work you've put into it. If you don't have social media or that doesn't work for you, you can share your submission through a Google form, and you'll see the link on the slide. Remember, the deadline is February 1st. You can click on the link for Facebook social media links or into the Google form. Remember, share all your information, have a lot of fun drawing your superhero, and we look forward to what you're making.
Hopefully everyone enjoyed our presentation. I think this is a really cool opportunity for everybody. If you're interested in RIT or NTID, want some more information, we do have a lot of resources available for you to check that out. Also, if you have any questions, you can talk to your counselor. My former counselor is actually up here on the slide, Rick Postel. And if you're interested in any cool programs that they might have, here are some options. If you have any more questions, you can talk to an admissions counselor. Now, we have some time. If you'd like to ask any questions, please use the Q&A function. It can be something about the presentation. It can be something else if you're curious about something. Any questions, we're open. Now, somebody asked, which is harder, creating the script or actually shooting the movie? Which one do we think is more challenging?
Well, I think I'll answer that one. I think the harder part is actually filming the movie, because when you're creating a script, you can be free to be creative and jot down any ideas you have and work through it. You can get feedback from the team, you can review your story and refine it. But when you get to filmmaking, that's really the hard work. You're setting up and breaking down scenes. If anybody makes a mistake, you have to go back and do the take all over again. So it can be really intensive.
Yeah, and I want to add to that, just like Moises said, setting everything up, filming is super time consuming, also really challenging. When you're doing the script, also, you might have to work with a team too, thinking about the story, making sure you're getting all the main points that you want to include, thinking about the climax. What are you supposed to be doing? How do you want to get from point A to point B? So you need to think about that. And I would say, honestly, both of them have their own challenges. Both of them, you need to follow a step-by-step process and a specific format. And so really it just depends on what people's preferences are.
So it looks like our next question is, how can I become an actor? Basically, you need to get involved. You need to do stage productions and shows. You need to engage with people. If anybody's calling for actors or volunteers, step up, volunteer, put yourself out there in front of people, film yourself doing certain scenes and acting, and then review your work and make some improvements to it, right? You really need to get comfortable looking at your own work and critiquing it. You need to understand your signing style. And if you see people whose acting and signing style is really attractive to you, study what it is about it that's so cool and why it's attractive to you, and then try to mimic that. And then practice your own signing style. Be comfortable with yourself, acting different roles, becoming different characters. And over a few years, I think you'll become really comfortable and maybe see some success.
And just to add on to that, acting is really fun. Just like Moises talked about, if you're in middle school and if you're in high school, try to get involved in the different productions that you might see. You can see deaf actors, hearing actors, try to see how they use their acting skills in different performances. This is a great chance for you to incorporate these things if you're ever going to audition. Often you'll see deaf actors will have open casting calls and you'll be able to find different opportunities. And a lot of it is just trying. You might have to go to a lot of different auditions and sometimes you're not going to get the part, but keep trying until you get to where you want to be. I actually was on a TV show when I was growing up. It was called Signing Times. And now as an adult, that's not something I do anymore. I usually am involved in different projects, but that was something that was a big part of my upbringing. Our next question is, how many designs can you create? Well, in general, you're able to create lots of different designs. Think about how are you creating designs in the world? But first you need to think about your audience. Maybe you want to work for a specific company, you want to share a story, all of these different things you can keep in mind. So keep designing, keep working, keep thinking about the step-by-step process. Think about what you're looking for, think about what your audience, think about how you're going to advertise that, and make sure you're incorporating all of these different things as a part of your design. And you can have as many ideas as you'd like. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would add one more thing about the design. Right, so when you're coming up with a new design, take your time, right? Spend maybe a couple, 2-3 hours and really give it some thought. Consider what it is you want to draw. Make a really neat, clean 3D drawing. So you might want to spend, even a couple weeks practicing on other paper. You might want to get some feedback from your friends and family, and then adjust your drawing and tweak it as you go until you're ready to create the one for your final submission. So spend a lot of time practicing your drawing. Be patient with yourself. The key is being patient because it's going to take a lot of work and practice.
Right. And just to add on to that, I mentioned that I majored in deaf cultural studies and as well as a few other things. But another field that you might want to think about is industrial design. That is a great recommendation if you have a really cool idea or a few different ideas, thinking about the different sketches that you can create. And when you're in a major like that, often you might have 20 different sketches all for the same idea. Malvana and I have talked about this, about how you have so many different ideas, so many different things, but you might only have limited time. And that's a great opportunity to just do some rough sketches. And then you can pick maybe 2 or 3 of your strongest ideas and then develop those and then actually put more time and effort. But rough sketching, you can create as many as you want. Figure out what looks good, figure out what works, and that's a great way to practice your artistic skills. Also, I recommend if you want to get better at drawing, you can think about drawing 3D boxes. It's actually very challenging because you have to learn how to draw straight lines. And honestly, my first year of college, what I would do in one of my classes, we were required to turn in 200 papers. Every single one of those papers were just lines. That's it. We had to practice drawing straight lines over and over and over again. Sometimes we had to do that with circles. We had to do that with ovals because you needed to practice making all of these different shapes. It got a little bit frustrating, but it definitely helped me to create or to develop my own skills. Specifically with 3D boxes, you need to be able to draw straight lines and then make connections to create that 3D shape. When you're looking at it from another perspective, it might not look right, but then you look at it from a different perspective, it might look better.
So the next question is, how can you make an animal in a movie? So do you mean a 3D animal or like a live type in a film? Well, I'm just going to take a best guess at your question. And my answer would be, if you want to make a 3D animal, oh, a fake animal. Okay, got it. Okay. So say you have some animal you want to make that's not a real animal. Again, in 3D, you really want to start with the digital design work. So you want to draw it digitally, manually in your software. You want to think about how you're going to connect with that animal. So you're going to have to do some research, maybe have a storyboard about what that animal is going to look like. You need to be inspired by the drawing, and then you're going to take that drawing and replicate it in a 3D software. You really need to get very skilled at creating depth and the 3D imagery necessary for that animal to look really lifelike. So you want to be inspired. You want to look at drawings of animals, really understand what their body looks like, their shape, what they look like when they move, how their muscles and lines are on their body, and then replicate that in 3D. So you really have to have a vision in mind, begin with 2D drawings, get really good at your 2D drawings, have a real sense of what the image is that you want to replicate. And then once you're confident and skilled in the 2D drawing, and like we've said before, it's all about patience and repetition. You need to keep practicing with your drawings until you're really satisfied with your final product.
Yes, you're more than welcome to draw a superhero in a pose that's different than the model. If you look at the back, you can see that outline that is available, but you can turn it over and you can draw your own pose, whatever you'd like. And you can use lines provided or not. The goal is to just create your own idea. Again, use the guideline, don't use the guideline. If you want to do a different pose, you're more than welcome to do that. All right, our next question is for acting. Do you need to take classes outside of RIT or NTID? Actually, you are able to take acting classes. There are classes that are available online, on Zoom. One of my recommendations would be if you have opportunities to act in high school or take classes for acting in high school, you're more than welcome to do that. That's a great start. If you look at different opportunities that are available, you can see how many people and how to learn different acting skills.
I'll take this next question. So the question is, how long does it take typically to make a movie? And how long did it take to make the short video clip? So really, it depends on your team and it depends on the idea you're trying to replicate and show. So it could take as little as 30 minutes, right? You need to have setup, you need to film it, and you need to have breakdown. So for a 30-second clip, it could take you an hour. You might have to do takes over and over again. You want to make sure everything moves seamlessly. That might take even up to 2 hours, and then you need to do editing. And you need to really work with your team so that every person on the team knows what their role is. You need to have a sound person, a lighting person. You need to have someone in control of the camera work, and it's really a cohesive team. So it's not done by just one person, and how long it takes depends on your project.
Also, just to add on to that, depending on what program you're using too, some things have more step-by-step instructions, and it really just depends on your project. In my experience, I would use a storyboard, and that needs to be included in your time as well. So I would say it takes a really long time to make a 10-15 minute video, because first off, you're starting with your script, You're thinking of your storyboard. It might take up to 2 months just to make that 10, 15-minute video. And again, that goes from start to finish. And then maybe you think you have it done, you get some feedback, and then you might make edits. Think about the pipeline that we talked about earlier. Part of that is thinking about the storyboard, and it doesn't always work out your first time. Some things might need to be edited, some things might need to be fixed, and it's not really a linear process. Again, maybe about 2 months, because your video is going to take a while to make, and there's a lot of different steps that you need to think about. It might seem really long, but that will help your finished product in the end. And hopefully that answers your question. Anybody else have any other questions? We still have some more time left, so this is your opportunity. We're ready to answer any questions that you have. It can be a question related to something we're talking about. It could be something else. All right, the next question is, what is your favorite part about your roles at Morpheyes, and how did you decide to choose the roles that you have? I would say that my favorite part about working at Morpheyes, I really enjoy working on a deaf team. That's something that I never experienced before I started working at Morpheyes. It's really cool because some people sign, some people use spoken English. We just are able to communicate, but it's a really cool and a really equitable environment. We are able to be creative, we brainstorm together, we work together, and I would have to say that that's definitely my favorite part. And again, as my role in creative production, I am responsible for lots of different things. I come up with scripts, I come up with different ideas, I work with different people on their projects. I do have some experience with editing, so if people on our team need help, I typically help them out with that. Again, one role, but I wear many different hats. What do you think?
Yeah, I would just add to that Morpheyes Studio, since it's been established, has really been an amazing place to work, right? To be a filmmaker and an editor and a designer. It's just been more than I dreamed of. It's been great. And now as new people join the team and we have new projects, everyone brings their own skill set, which is really great. And I always encourage and empower members of the team to work together cohesively as a team, right? Use the skill that you bring to the team, work with the team to make every project better, because together, really, that's the spirit of working as a team, is working together to make every project better. I've really enjoyed it.
I would have to say that as an artist, I really enjoy being a part of this team. Everyone's super creative. A lot of times we'll have a new project, which is super exciting for everybody because that's our opportunity to get together and figure out how we're going to accomplish that project. And we do everything that we can do. We all invest lots of time, lots of creative skills to get these projects done. It's been an amazing experience working with this amazing group of people. I really enjoy being part of the team. Any more questions? All right, so our next question is, once I finish my portrait, how exactly do I submit it? Do I just take a picture of it? Moises, I think you'd be the right one to answer that.
Yeah, so what you can do is take a picture of your drawing. You can take a picture of it, you can scan it, you can submit it through Facebook or Instagram. Again, remember to use the @Morpheyes Studio, #NTID, Superheroes Assemble, and you can go back and see it exactly on the slide as you need to enter it.
That was a great question. What I recommend is thinking about lighting too. So when you're taking your picture, you might have to use your flash. So set it down on something that's a solid background and try to make sure it's exact, or it's all the way flat. So if you have this paper here, you want to make sure the entire thing is in the screen, because once you're taking the picture, you want to think about how it's going to look when you submit it. Also, make sure that any lights you have in the room are well lit, and then that will help best show your drawing off. If you want to see things that we've done with our team, we can show you a few of our drawings. That's something that we have on social media. If you want to watch our videos that we've made, some of the projects that we've done, you're more than welcome to take a look at that. Please submit all of your different ideas. If you feel maybe that your drawing isn't good enough and you're embarrassed about it, don't worry about it. This is your opportunity to show your skills. We want to see everyone's perspective and see everyone's superheroes. And this is your opportunity to be creative. We want to see more deaf superheroes and more people sharing their creativity with the world. This is a great opportunity for you to do that. Any more questions? All right, the next question is, what made you interested in including a team of people to assist with your art? Really, when it comes to teamwork, everyone that I work with is so creative, which helps me feel passionate about these ideas as well. So for example, Malvana might come up with a really cool drawing, and then Moises is able to turn that into a video, which gives us the opportunity to think about location, think about who are we going to hire as actors. There are all of these different parts that go into it, but everyone is able to share their skills and expertise and then work together as a team. Also, just so you know, I used to hate teamwork when I was in high school, when I was in middle school, we had group projects. I always felt that sometimes one person on the team didn't put in as much effort as the other people on the team. But here at Morpheyes, we often all are putting in all of our effort all of the time. So if somebody's struggling with something, sometimes you have to help them out, but really it's all about respect. And just to add on to that, think about how you are able to use your skills to apply to your art. And if you're working as a team, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. For example, if you're creating a comic book like the one we did, that required all of us to work together. People had different responsibilities. People were in charge of setting up the layout, what that's going to look like. Other people were responsible for filling in the ink. Then it's handed off to somebody else to add in the color. Maybe it's something that isn't really in your skill set. That's the opportunity for somebody else to get in there and be able to help you out. It's all about sharing the workload and sharing the responsibility, but the goal is to get a project done at the end of the day. And that involves a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different skills. Any more questions? The next question is, how many hours does it take to complete one video? I'm maybe not the right person to answer that question. Well, I can give an example. The clip that you saw of me that was really short, I would say it was definitely under 3 minutes, maybe 30 seconds or so. That took me about 6 months to create. From my first draft all the way to the end took a while because I did get one draft done. I sent it for some feedback, but I also knew I had to add in captioning. I knew I had to make sure the colors looked good. There were a lot of different small things that I had to think about to get to my finished project. So for a small film, it took me, I would say, less than a year. I'm actually working on a pretty cool documentary right now. And over the summer, started filmed for about 2 or 3 weeks, gathering interviews, did that over the weekends for a while. And then now I'm in the editing process. Again, not finished yet, but I would say we get things done little by little. Sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes 2 years. It just really depends who's on your team, who's available at the time. For example, with our team right now, we have a few full-time workers, and then we have some students who are working with us as well. So it's a balance because the students have to deal with their homework. They have to balance out their other activities. Students during college are usually really busy, and the person who's editing is also a student. So that takes more time, depending on what amount of time people have and what they're able to commit at the time. It really just kind of depends. Our next question is, do you guys need the picture to be a specific kind of formatting? Maybe a doc, a PDF, .docs, or RTF? When you are submitting your entry, it could be a JPEG. That might be the easiest way to do it if you take a picture. And I know that sometimes when you are taking a photo with your phone, it might turn into a live picture, and that might not work because it will not be recognized by the Google formatting. So just make sure it's not a live picture, but as long as it's something like a JPEG, that should work. And then our very last question. All right, they're asking, what is your favorite movie or TV show or book or story? Do you want to start? This is a really hard question because as an artist, I am always inspired by different kinds of movies and TV shows and books. But if I had to choose one out of all of those things, this is one movie that I really, really liked growing up. I really liked the characters, the movie Coraline. That's something that has an amazing use of color, the character design, how the set, the background was developed, everything was so amazing. And that is one of the movies that I've always felt a really deep connection to because of the artistic style. I really like Steven Universe. That's something that inspired a lot of my art as well. How those characters were developed, the use of color. And really, I use a lot of different kinds of movies and TV shows as inspiration, but also now I just want to say thank you to all of the people who helped make this workshop happen. Thank you to the interpreters. Thank you to the captionists. Thank you to everyone who was involved in this project. For me, I would say I really like Iron Grant. It's a cartoon of a young boy, or Iron Giant, a young boy who kind of turns into a robot. That's something that I really connected with. And Iron Giant is not, there's no words in it. There's no text. It's mostly focused on gestures. And as a deaf person, that's something that I always found inspiring. If I'm thinking about books, it's hard to choose a favorite, but I recommend reading a lot because whether you're reading or watching TV, this is a great way for you to get different ideas of types of stories. For example, one thing that I really love is watching all sorts of different movies. It doesn't matter if it's not a great movie, even maybe a bad movie. Every movie has something cool to offer. Thinking about camera angles, thinking about character development, being able to use these different ideas that you see in the movies and stories that you watch, and then help to create your own style. We actually have one more question. And this is the last one, I promise. I figure that your team includes a lot of people. So what happens when people on the team have different art styles? That's a great question. Remember I mentioned on a previous slide about the character artist? If we run into a problem, for example, when we were creating our comic book, there's one person who is mainly responsible for the style. And then the rest of the team will follow the style that's decided by the character artist. Anything either one of you want to add? As a group of artists, we often work together as a team, but that does mean we have a lot of different styles and different approaches to the work. Sometimes it can be difficult trying to figure out how we're going to blend all of these styles together. At the same time, that just requires some practice. If we have a project, we need to make sure that we're able to incorporate styles, but we also want to make sure it flows. So through this step-by-step process, we try to make sure that we're figuring out what that style is going to be. It requires skills, it requires experience. You definitely can do it. Again, it might take some practice, but you're able to figure out one style that's going to be cohesive.
Yeah, and I would add focus on editing, right? That's a really important part of the project. So make sure you have somebody on the team who's really skilled with editing. Maybe someone's not super skilled with motion graphics. So find out what everybody's skill set is on the team and then assign people accordingly so that everybody on the team can do what they're best at. And try to remember who the people are on your team so that if you have a skill set and someone needs a little instruction with it, you can be helpful in helping them learn something more. And that way, when people move off the team, you have someone who can replace them, say like in editing. If someone who's been doing the editing leaves the team for whatever reason, someone else can pretty seamlessly take up that role. So it's important to continue to work with the team, try to move everybody's skill set forward. And then sometimes it takes a little bit of time for the team to gel, maybe a month or two of working together, and that's normal, right? You may be contracted with a big project, but when you do get that big project, you have a team that works really well together. You know everybody's skill set, everybody can do their job and do it well, right? So when something is edited, it has to be edited in order. Your clips can't get out of order because then the whole video will not flow. So you have to have someone who's organized and knows what they're doing. You don't want to get the clips out of order because that'll screw up the rest of the project and other people on the team. So if something goes awry, you have to communicate with your team members and then just really maximize everybody's skill. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to the captionists, thanks to the interpreters, thanks to everyone behind the scenes who made this web happen. Thanks to all of you for being here today. Thanks for your attention and for watching us. And really enjoy yourselves, get engaged, follow us on social media. We look forward to seeing all your submissions and your drawings. We look forward to following the hashtag on social media. And we're really excited to see what you all create and what you draw.